Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sonia, and here on my channel we have healthy discussions about life, love, dating, and relationships while promoting self-love and healing. I sometimes use hot topics and reality shows as my muse, and tonight we're talking about Married at First Sight. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are coming back, welcome back, family. So good to see you. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thumbs up the video, leave me a comment below, and let me know your thoughts on my commentary and this week's episode. First up, let's talk about Clint and Gina, because there really isn't a lot to say about these two. I think they're just kind of, spending time together. They're going to see how this process goes. They're going to see it through. Let me say that. They're just not going to give up. I think that's Clint's motto, like, let's not give up. I think he's hopeful, but at the same time, he understands that this may not end in a lifelong marriage. I think Gina has pretty much given up on the relationship being a lifelong marriage. I don't think Gina is open. Maybe with the right person, she may be willing to open up more, but I still think she'll very much be guarded because the issues, I think I said last time, I think that Gina has not gotten over this past relationship or her relationship with men in general, from what she stated regarding her dad. And I understand that, but that's something that has to be worked through, so you're willing to open your heart to a mate. It's great for an individual to provide a safe space for you, but you still have to be willing to open up and to allow your heart to love again. And that's an internal safety. That isn't external. That isn't something someone else can give you. So you need both, essentially, is what I'm saying. So that's it with those two. We just see them kind of getting along. I can't wait till next week, though, because Dr. Pia is going to be there. So I'm excited about that. Next up, let's talk about Kirsten and Shaq. Kirsten is finessing. Kirsten is finessing, in my opinion. I've been saying from the very beginning, nothing about Kirsten adds up. Nothing she says adds up. Her behaviors, how she shows up, what she says, they are not aligned, in my opinion. And I know it's frustrating for Shaq. But where the problem comes in for the both of them is how they communicate. And then also this desire to check the boxes. When you're talking about your lifelong partner, the person that makes decisions on your life, if something was to happen to you that will help you raise your children or whom you're going to have children with, you need more than the check of the box. You need more than the title. There really needs to be a lot of respect there. There needs to be a lot of understanding there, compassion, compatibility. Like, you need so much more than the title. We get caught up in titles, but titles mean nothing if there's no substance. So I have concerns about these two. Kirsten shows Shaq a house, and they kind of talk about the future, and Kirsten drops the bomb. She didn't ask. She demanded a home. She said, if you want us to stay married, you have to buy me a home. So for Kirsten, I feel that relationships, or her marriage to Shaq, her potential marriage, if they stay together, it's about a transactional relationship. I think they've been intimate, and I think her thing is, okay, now we've gone this far. I'm your wife. We're in it. This is what I need from you. This is a conversation I feel should have been had early on about what your expectations for your husband is, not after certain behaviors or certain activities have taken place, right? Set your expectations up front about what it is that you want, because they're already married. They are married. So I think some of these other conversations around bald head and attraction, okay, but what about who and what you're really looking for? And that's information you should get. I think Shaq should have been seeking that information out. But again, we get caught up on attraction, and attraction is important, don't get me wrong, but attraction can fade. People can alter their looks in different ways for different reasons, and sometimes it has nothing to do with something that they've done. And is that person the person that you want to be with, is the question you have to ask yourself. So she demands a house. The way they communicate with one another is so concerning to me, because you have Kirsten who, when she does speak, she makes demands, or she doesn't speak at all, or it's just kind of like whatever you say. Okay. You know, with Shaq, he becomes confrontational. He waits until he's frustrated, and then he kind of demands an answer. He wants to talk about it now. Like when they were in the kitchen revisiting the conversation about her demands for him buying her a home, he was upset about it. And I just really wish that they could have a conversation. But I know she makes it challenging for him to have a conversation. But also, I really think it's natural for him to react the way that he does. I don't think this is anything new as far as him being confrontational. Like, I'm going to demand that you tell me what it is that I want to hear, or we talk about it right now, you know, which isn't healthy. It isn't healthy. There's a way to have these conversations, and they're not doing it well. So for both of them, that's something that they could work on, even if it isn't with one another, just for the future. How do you ask for what you want? How do you have a conversation? That's a sign of respect. That's how you respect your partner, how you speak to them or about things with them. It needs to be respectful, and they're both showing signs of disrespect, because she is too. You don't just demand anything from a person. And Shaq was trying to let her know, like, I have a honey, Shaq has a PhD. Now, usually in a lot of cases, the schools will pay for you to go to school, so I have questions about that. But you know, he's like, I don't have this kind of money. And I don't even know if they were talking about this house. Like, there's just a lot of reaction with those two, and there's not a lot of conversation. No one is really seeking understanding. There's just a lot of reaction. So I have my concerns there, but I think they're playing cat and mouse. I think Kirsten is kind of finessing him. I think this relationship is based on a checkbox and transaction. And if that's what you want for your marriage, that's fine. But you should ask yourself, is that what I want? Do I want a transactional marriage that's based purely on transaction and purely on image and purely on what people think of us and how we present? And what other substance do I want or not want? A big problem that a lot of people have with relationships is not knowing who they are and what they really want and why it's important to them, and whether or not they deserve it. Like, those are the biggest challenges when you get to the core of problems of relationships. Of course, besides unhealed trauma and things of that sort, or just a lack of knowledge of how to have relationships. So that's really all I have to say about the two of them. Later, Jasmine and Airris and Shaq and Kirsten have a double date, which it was nice to see them laughing. Everybody's been so doom and gloom, it seems to me, this season. So it was nice to see them make light of something. Shaq speaks with Jasmine, and they both talk about basically their needs are not getting met. They're both in the same boat. Their partner wasn't initially attracted to them. It hurt their feelings. They feel ways about it. They try to be optimistic about it, but deep down they really are upset, but they haven't properly communicated how they feel about it. They haven't been effective in getting that message to their partner, and they are just kind of cheering each other on, essentially. Jasmine just really wanted to hear that she's beautiful and she's enough. And I understand that, but I really want her to know that for herself. Because once you know it for yourself, no one else can take it away. If you own it yourself, no one else can tell you that you're worthy. And let me just say this too. People can see that you're valuable, but you may not be valuable to them, you know, or they may not value you. Like, for instance, Airris is a sneaker person, right? Jasmine, I'm sure, could care less about sneakers. To Airris, these sneakers are valuable. And while Jasmine can see how much they cost and how much they mean to him, they don't mean the same to her, right? And it's that way with a person. A person may know that you're valuable and you have great qualities, but it isn't quite what they're looking for, or just not enough for them in one way or another. And when I say not enough, I'm not saying that you're not good enough, but it isn't enough to move them in a direction. Basically, this is what they own. You can't do anything about what they want, what they value, what they see. You have to know your own worth. And that would be my message to Jasmine. If you really truly knew and understood your own worth, it wouldn't matter what he saw, what he liked, or what he disliked, right? Or whether or not he could see your value, because you know your worth. And you will understand that him not understanding your value or your worth, or not appreciating it, means that it's time for you to move on, because you don't understand my worth, right? You're not going to take care of me the way that I need to be taken care of. So for Jasmine, I do wish that she could have the conversation with Airris like she had with Shaq, or with other people. I understand why that's a barrier, but I'll get to that when I talk about those two. But, I want Shaq to be more honest with himself. Shaq isn't being honest. Jasmine said she had to kind of bring it out of him. Like, hey, it doesn't bother you that you have not met her father. At first he's like, yeah, it's fine. Then he admitted that it bothers him. So own how you feel, own what you think, and communicate that, instead of waiting until you're frustrated and then you lash out. That is a sign of immaturity, right? That's an area that you can mature in, and it's about communication skills and owning that, and owning your feelings and your thoughts. Kirsten is aware of where Shaq struggles in these areas, and in my opinion, she kind of uses it against him, or she toys with him with it. This conversation they had when they went to go visit Kirsten's home and childhood home, and she's saying, well, my father was a provider and that's why I want a provider. Again, I have not seen any consistency in her actions versus what she says versus what we see. Okay. So you guys grew up in a 2-bedroom house, 5 of you, and there was a divorce at 8 years old. And she's like, no one had to tell my father how to be a man. No one had to tell him how to treat us and how to take care of us. And that's why my expectations are what they are. But your parents were divorced at 8. So you just said last week you had to handle everything on your own. So that means you didn't feel supported. So I just don't know what to believe when it comes down to Kirsten, to be honest. I believe what I see, right? I believe what I see. But as far as what she says, I have a hard time believing what she says. Let me say that, because there's just a lot of inconsistencies. So, I think Shaq really needs to decide what's important to him and why, and what it is that he wants out of a wife and a relationship. And the same with Kirsten. And if both of them agree with image and transaction and checking off boxes, like if that's all you want out of a marriage, or why you want a marriage, then if that makes you happy, okay. But marriage is so much more than that. Relationships are so much more than that. One reason why I do not get caught up in titles is because titles without substance means absolutely nothing to me. So we'll see with these two. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about Jasmine and Airris. So Airris is trying to open up more in his hopes to gain some kind of intimacy, or just to kind of get to know Jasmine. And I know a lot of people are just going to say it's too late, and it may be. But let me just say this. Jasmine isn't really being honest either. Jasmine isn't really communicating either. And Jasmine is doing the same thing that Shaq is doing. She's just holding things in and letting them build up. I talked last week about how she's conflict avoidant, and she is. She avoids conflict so much, though, that her needs aren't being met, and she doesn't ever get around to expressing herself. And I'm sad for her for that, because that has to be a very lonely place, and you can only give so much and not get back. But if she owned her feelings and owned her thoughts and communicated those, then maybe she can get her needs met, or at the very least understand, I'm not going to get my needs met here. Right? So since my needs aren't going to be met here, then it's okay for me to move on. One of the reasons I can tell that she's been in these long-term relationships that have not resulted in marriage is because she does not set a standard. She doesn't have any requirements. It's just kind of like go along. And so the areas that would be best for her to work on is setting some standards. Writing down what it is that she desires, and say that with what she wants in a relationship. She doesn't have to demand it in a way that Kirsten did. She could just say, my husband would protect me in these ways. My husband would communicate to me in these ways. She can have that conversation with Airris that way. I think that would hit Airris a little more too, because unpopular opinion here, I do think Airris wants to be married. I've been saying this from day one. I just don't think he knows how. He doesn't know what he's doing. But I do think the desire is there. Just like the desire for me to stop eating Lay's potato chips is there, but I haven't got Anyway, so I think the desire is there. I feel bad for her because this whole experience is kind of her reliving her past and her being bullied and mistreated and picked on. And Airris alluded to her having a lot of responsibility at a young age and feeling like she always has to take care of people. And I talked in my episode 10 and 11 how when you grow up as a preacher's kid or the family, a leadership family in a church, you have all these expectations and you're taught to serve, and you're never taught about you. So for Jasmine, the big assignment would be get to know self. Be comfortable and give yourself permission to say who you are and what it is that you really want. She says she's confident, but her actions and her behaviors tell me differently. And you may be confident in some ways, or you may know the language to speak to others. You may be able to speak into others' lives, but you can't do it for yourself. And that's why I advocate for self-love and for building a relationship with yourself. That is so very important. But she's not saying what it is that she wants or what she needs or what can make it safe. When she talks to Airris, she's just like, but she's not saying anything, but she's not saying she wants out either. If she was just to say, I want out of this marriage, I'm done, that would be one thing. But she's staying in it and she's going along, but she's frustrated and her needs aren't being met. And she isn't saying, this is how, there isn't a conversation about how you can get these needs met. And I think this is a great place and space for the experts to step in, because truth be told, both of them are ill-equipped. And although she's been in relationships, she doesn't know how to have relationships. And there is a difference. We can all say we are something, but we don't do what we say we are. So it doesn't matter, right? She's been in relationships, but she hasn't really had a relationship where it's healthy and there's communication and love and actions are reciprocated and needs are met and she's nurtured. She kind of shows up and do what needs to be done and waits it out in hopes that someone will do something different. This issue that Jasmine is having isn't just about Airris. These are Jasmine issues. These are patterns from past relationships. And you can tell she's talked about it. She's said it. Her mom has said it. So this isn't an Airris thing. This is a Jasmine thing. It just so happens she's with someone who's emotionally unavailable. So these issues she's having shows up even more. And I'm not saying this to say that Jasmine is bad. I wish we would get away from everything meaning bad. It's not that it's bad. It's just, it is, and it needs to be worked on as an area of growth, an opportunity to grow, to evolve, to change, to heal, to be better. But yeah, Jasmine has her own set of issues. You can say what you want about Airris, because we all know he has his, but she has hers as well. And it's just because of the things that he's saying. A lot of times he's talking out loud. Some things he just really should keep to himself until he figures out what it is that he's really trying to say. But he doesn't. He says it, and it's hurtful for her. But her self-love and self-worth is an internal thing, right? You never want that full supply of self-love to try to come from somewhere else. It's impossible, for one, but you need to love yourself enough. And there's some issues there. And Jasmine is having challenges in that area of expressing herself, expressing her needs, being able to talk to her partner. She says whatever to everyone else, but she doesn't say that to him. And again, this has been a pattern in relationships, so it's not just about Airris. Airris was right in saying that he didn't create a safe space for her, because he didn't, and that's true. But it's also true that this is a pre-existing issue. So When she was talking with Shaq, they were able to talk because I think she can relate to Shaq, and she can't really relate to Aries, you know. And I also think a lot of people feel this way when Aries is talking about all the things that he's been through, all the losses he's had. Like she has no emotion behind it. She says words, but there's no emotions behind it. And I don't know if she feels like, well, I've been through these things too, you kind of get over it, or what it is. Or she's just tired or frustrated. I just wish she would express herself more, and say what it is that she needs and she wants in more detail. Like I wish they would really have a conversation about it. But it seems as though she shut down, but she's not walking away. So you have to make a decision if you're going to stay and do the work, or walk away. Same we would say to Aries, like either do the work or walk away. One of the two. Like don't just linger. So that's my thoughts on those two. Next up, we have Chris and Nicole. And I'm so happy that they took the moment to have a little light, because their conversations are always so heavy. I just want them to have fun. I just want them to have a good time. I think Chris wants that as well. Nicole is so afraid of being rejected and turned away, and Chris not liking her. And I think she feels like, let me uncover every little thing about me to see if you're going to run. You know, she's worried about him leaving. She's worried about him running and not accepting her, no matter how much he tries to say, I'm here and I accept you, right? So there's this conversation about rejection from her dad, but it's kind of like undercover, when she says in her letter, I wish we had a better relationship. But she kind of covers it and says how much her parents were loving and they gave her a lot of attention because she needed a lot of attention. And when she said that, my thoughts were, did you need a lot of attention or did you not get attention? Right? So were you seeking the attention that you did not get? Or were you truly getting a lot of attention and you wanted more? And I think it was the first. I will think it's the first. I think there was some things happening that she doesn't want to say, which I understand. But her parents were pretty lax, and so she was seeking some acceptance from friends and peers, and it landed her in circles where she was mistreated. And you know, when predators or people who have predatory tendencies know that you have a need, they will exploit that need, right? Which is why, again, it's very important. You know who you are, you love who you are, and you work on these areas of yourself, and you're not so desperately seeking attention and love and desire from anyone, right? And you're growing up, that's hard to do because we're supposed to get that from our parents. So naturally, if we don't get it from our parent, we get it from an outside source. But as you grow up, is what I'm referring to, is when you really need to do that, work on that for yourself, okay? Because otherwise, you'll keep trying to fill that hole with someone who may not be the best for you, and they may feel that hole, but they're empty everywhere else, and so there's so much lack in the rest of the relationship or the reaction. So they talk about their childhood, and Chris said, you know, she was someone that he probably would not have dated when they were younger. And while I understand what Chris is trying to say, but I always have just like this undercover concern about Chris, because Chris talks a lot about everyone else. Everyone else was bad, and I just want to know, what did Chris do? What part did he play? I recently had a conversation with someone and I said, everyone plays a role in the downfall of a relationship, even if that means that you ignore red flags, right? So it's not that one person is the sole problem in the relationship. It takes two or more people to be in one. And what role do you play? I have questions about Chris. Okay, I have questions about him. Because there is this constant conversation about how everyone mistreated him. All of his ex-girlfriends. He's always been a nice guy that's been mistreated. And I think there's more to the story. There's more that we're not hearing. Nicole, again, just doesn't want to be rejected. and she's trying to find out if she can find Chris's breaking point. And I would strongly advise against that, because sometimes you're welcoming or bringing a certain energy or behaviors that weren't there, you know, but you're asking for them. And when you ask enough, you receive. So I want Nicole to just kind of enjoy the moment and start living in life, and allow Chris to get to know her for who she is right now, today, and not just everything about her past, right? Failures and difficult times, things like that about us, yeah, they can hurt us, but if you grow past them, they also make you a better person, and there's benefit on the other side. And I wish you would focus a little more on those kind of things versus focusing on the past. But again, she has a fear of being rejected, and so she's just trying to see if she's okay. She's seeking safety and reassurance, essentially. All in all, I feel like Nicole's relationship with her dad impacted her, and her stepdad. I feel like all these factors impacted her in ways that she's not ready to talk about on this platform or at all. And that's normal. It's okay. I just hope eventually she gets around to it, and know that she's good enough and she's enough, and that it's okay. That's it. That's really all I have to say about these couples this week. I saw After Party. I don't have much to say about After Party. So that's it, guys. Let me know your thoughts below. I watched this episode late, and it was really challenging for me to get into. So I don't have a lot to say. And it's a lot of the same. It's kind of more of the same. So that's it, guys. That's all I have to say for this episode. Please let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thumbs up the video. And I will see you again soon. Please don't forget to love yourself for who you are. Take care. Bye-bye.